Now to the Middle East, where Hamas says President Trump's threat against the group will encourage Israel to back out of the Gaza ceasefire agreement. In a strongly worded social media post, Mr. Trump issued what he called a last warning to Hamas to immediately release the remaining hostages. He called the group sick and twisted and said it was over for the militants. At the same time, Washington has confirmed sending an envoy for unprecedented direct talks with Hamas on the release of US-Israeli hostages. Reports suggest 2 direct meetings have been held with an American official. Israel's only official reaction so far has been a terse statement from the office of the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel, it said, had expressed to the US its position regarding direct talks with Hamas. It's not clear how much Israeli officials were told about the negotiations. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now on the line from Qatar by a spokesman for the political bureau of Hamas, Dr. Bassem Naim, who was the health minister in Gaza. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. So a strongly worded statement from President Trump on social media, calling Hamas sick and twisted and warning that it's over for the group if hostages are not released immediately. What's your reaction to that?
Thank you very much for inviting me to be with you. Unfortunately, we received back very negative messages from from Washington D.C. from President Trump. We hope that this message was the message of peace, the message of kindness towards Palestinian people who are suffering now for 76 years of this unprecedented colonial project. I am sure that President Trump, when he is talking about our people, our resistance in these very negative words, he is not aware that still thousands of our beloved men and women and minors and children are in Israeli jails and detention centers, that hundreds of bodies of Palestinians killed along the last years are still kept by Israeli forces. I think it is unfair to talk about this very complicated conflict in the language of threatening one party in favor of the other party who is the aggressor.
Well, yes, some might agree with that assessment, but however you look at it, it's not looking good, is it? Because he said he was sending Israel everything it needs to finish the job. I mean, that sounds pretty ominous, doesn't it?
Yes, I think it is very ominous, but I have to remind everyone that Israel was supported or backed up along the last decades fully by the United States. We can talk about the last 15 months when Israel attacked our people in the Gaza Strip. All the time, Israel was supported by all kind of ammunition, by all kind of money, diplomatic support, political support in the media internationally, and at the end they have failed to achieve their goals because they are fighting against people who are fighting for their dignity and freedom and their homeland. I think they have to understand, everyone have to understand that Palestinians are not initiating any war against anybody. We are not in war with anybody except someone who is occupying our land, who is killing our children, and therefore we are struggling for freedom and dignity and to live like everybody in the region and outside the region, free and in a prosperous future. I have to remind everyone that this occupation is lasting for 76 years. We have given and offered a hand for a settlement of this conflict peacefully, politically, 1993. What is the result after 30 years? more annexation of our land, more Judaization of Jerusalem, more killing of Palestinians. Israel publicly and officially declaring that there is no place for a Palestinian state between the river and the sea, and there is no place for any other entity except Israel between the river and the sea. I think we are the victims of this long-standing aggression, and what we are calling for is legitimate and noble, and President Trump and others, as long as they are calling for democracy and human rights everywhere, they have to stand beside and behind the Palestinians to gain or to achieve their goals of freedom and dignity.
It's interesting, Dr. Naim, that at the same time that President Trump was sending out that strongly worded statement and issuing all those warnings to Hamas, the Trump administration has also confirmed sending an envoy for unprecedented direct talks with Hamas. I mean, can you confirm that those talks have been taking place and what's being discussed?
Look, first of all, the Americans were part of the negotiations for the last 15 months, because the final achievement of signing a ceasefire agreement in January 19th of this year was supervised or under the auspices of the mediators, Qataris, Egyptians, and Americans. Therefore, the Americans, especially the team of President Trump, in the last few days before signing the agreement, they were directly involved in the negotiations. And therefore, then we have formed technical committees from all parties. I mean, the three mediators plus the Israelis and the resistance or Hamas, technical groups to follow up how the parties are implementing or how they are committed to the deal. Therefore, the Americans, they were always there. What happened lastly that one of the team of President Trump envoy, I mean Mr. Steve Witkoff, one of his team, they were directly or indirectly through the Qataris, they have asked about the possibility of releasing one of the captured Israelis who have an American citizenship. And our position was clear. We are ready to release all the captured Israelis in our side, but we have an agreement, we have signed it, and we are committed to this agreement. Please ask or pressure the Israelis to come to the table to implement this agreement, to exchange all the prisoners on our side for all the prisoners on their side, and to announce ending of the war, permanent ceasefire, and total withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. These and around these topics were the talks with the Americans through the Qataris.
And I suppose it is fair to say that Gaza ceasefire between Israel and Hamas remains in the balance. What's the latest on that?
Unfortunately, Prime Minister Netanyahu, because of internal political calculations, he has refused to engage in the negotiations of the second phase, which has to start on day 16 of the ceasefire agreement, in order to avoid the collapse of his government and his coalition. And until now, we are hanging in the vacuum. We have ended the first phase, but we didn't enter the second phase. Therefore, what they have decided now, not to go into the second phase, to close the borders, to prevent humanitarian aid to come into Gaza, which means that the suffering of already suffering Palestinians will increase significantly and dramatically, because they are suffering for 15 months of starvation and famine. This will increase rapidly, and also they have threatened to go back to war again. I think this is a very, sorry to say, a stupid decision, and the Israelis has to be pressured to go back to the deal, because otherwise This escalation will destabilize not only the situation in the Gaza Strip, but it will destabilize the whole region if we go back to war again.
Meanwhile, of course, just a few 24 hours ago or so, the Arab Gaza plan was revealed to the public, a $53 billion scheme over 5 years, which will rebuild Gaza but leave Palestinians inside the strip while the work is carried out. I wonder what your reaction is to that.
We have welcomed this proposal or this plan, and we find it rational that Arabs, and maybe in 2 days also in the Islamic Summit, if they endorse the same plan, that the Arabic and Islamic countries are proposing something which is rational and objective, that Gaza Strip can be rebuilt again without committing a crime called of genocide or of ethnic cleansing, sorry, by evacuating forcefully 2 million Palestinians. And we can do it. It is only about how to recruit the money and how to reach a ceasefire, because most of the donors, they have said it clearly, we cannot invest again in Gaza if the Israeli threat to go to war again. Therefore, we are in urgent need for a permanent ceasefire, total withdrawal of the Israeli forces, and recruitment of this money. We have seen it very rational, very supportive, and we have welcomed this plan.
And where does that Arab roadmap leave Hamas? I mean, will the group be replaced? Because, I mean, it sounds, from what we've heard, as if Hamas is being sidelined.
Look, first of all, if you talk about ruling the Gaza Strip and Hamas in the government, we have said it many times, not only the last few weeks, we have said it in the last years. We are ready to hand over the government for any Palestinian unity government or any Palestinian technocratic government, which is representing all Palestinians. Or as an alternative, we have also accepted the Egyptian proposal by forming a body or a committee to run the Gaza Strip. And we have said, yes, we are welcoming this. We are ready to hand it over. And this body or this committee can come to Gaza and to run everything from A to Z. But unfortunately, this has been sabotaged by the Israelis and by some other players in the region. Second, if you talk about Hamas as a resistance movement, I think no one has discussed this in the final statement of the Arab Summit, because on the contrary, the Arab Summit has emphasized the right of Palestinians to resist the occupation, and the weapons or the arms of the resistance can be part of the coming or future Palestinian state arms, if we reach this goal to have a Palestinian state, to end the occupation and have a Palestinian state, which means that this resistance is because of the existence of the occupation. If we get rid of the occupation, the resistance will end immediately. Therefore, about Hamas in the government, yes, we have said we are ready to hand it over. But when it comes to Hamas as part of the Palestinian social fabric or Hamas as a resistance, I think Hamas is there and will continue to stay there because Hamas is representing the vast majority of Palestinian people.
On that note, I want to thank you very much indeed. Dr. Bassem Naim is spokesman for the political bureau of Hamas. He was the health minister in Gaza, and he was talking to me on the line from Qatar. Thank you very much indeed.